What's up, everyone? Welcome into the All 22 NFL Show, the official channel of the All 22 Fantasy Football platform. It's the only fantasy football game with full 53-man rosters, including offensive linemen, where you get to choose personnel packages and have access to PFF grading and advanced stats to make decisions each week. To learn more and sign up, go to all-22.com. Ray, you just broke a story to me right before we hit record that the findings of the Michigan scandal are now official. Tell me some more details about this, buddy. Share it with us all in the world.
I hate intro conversations, but basically Michigan cheated. All right. That's basically what they found. They were like, yeah, you did go to games, advance scout your opponents. You took down all their signs, recorded them on a hard drive, printed them out in advance, you had all the signs to all your big opponents. And you then lied to the NCAA when we investigated you and said that you didn't. You destroyed evidence. You destroyed your hard drive. You threw your hard drive in a pond. And then you just told like an unnamed student athlete that, hey, if the NCAA asks you, like, just stick to your story. It's not a court of law. They can't do anything to you, which is right. I mean, it's what Stallion said, and it's exactly right. And we all kind of knew that. So yeah, basically they had this whole big report. The NCAA is like, you did this. There was a culture of non-compliance, and then Jim Harbaugh just left and he didn't care about the rules. And we're going to fine you and we're going to suspend you like an extra game against Central Michigan next year in 2026. There's no real punishment in the NCAA anymore in college football. Like, there's no enforcement. Everyone knows that the NCAA is a joke. But my question to you, Chris, is we know college football, people have, before it was legal, there were always payments under the table, extra benefits. There's always something going on. There's always schools and programs and teams trying to get an edge. Do we think that just nobody is cheating in the NFL? Do we just think that like they're just all following the rules and like the only rule that they break is like every year at OTAs, one or two teams just hits each other too hard and then they have to forfeit a couple practices the next year? Like, is that the only form of cheating that goes on in the NFL?
I heard Jerry Jones was talking to Hillary Clinton about joining the staff because she knows how to destroy a hard drive.
That's wow.
I'm just saying, yeah, I think the NFL Bill Belichick got caught doing some of that stuff a few times. Like, I would be surprised if every NFL team doesn't do that to some extent. I think the only difference is like in the NFL, your success is my success in terms of like, if you're the Cowboys, I'm the Packers, like your success is my success. The growth of the NFL benefits everybody. So it's kind of like I hate to say this because it's kind of like, it doesn't necessarily matter if you win or I win, as long as the pot grows, right? And like that's really true about the NFL. It is not true about college football, right? Like, your program gets your money, and I'm sure there's some interconference kind of like revenue share, but like Michigan makes a lot of money on Michigan winning, and it's different for that reason. So like, while I think the NFL definitely cheats, I don't think it's as prudent for them to do so as it is in college. So curious what you think about that. And also like Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. If we're two NFL owners, we're two all 22 GMs and we're talking, and that's what you just said to me. When we get off our video call, our Zoom meeting, right? I'm going to all my people and saying, that guy is cheating us. I don't know how, and I don't know exactly when, but that guy is cheating. And so don't trust that guy. So that's all I'm saying. That was like some of the most untrustworthy stuff I've ever heard. If anyone says that to me, I know they're stabbing me in the back.
I would stab you in the back I do it all the time in our fantasy leagues, and I would do it if we were real GMs too. That's a promise. All right, we are going to be talking about some of the quarterback competitions, but also a focus on what the young quarterbacks in the NFL, maybe last year's rookies and this year's rookies, have been doing and what we kind of project for this year. I think it's going to be a fun conversation because there really is a really special class from a year ago with 6 first-round rookies that all made some sort of impact. And then there's this year's class, which is very different than that, right? But we're seeing some of these guys already showing some things. I think it's going to be good conversation. You had mentioned wanting to start off with the QB competition that's currently playing out in New Orleans between Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shough. I think those are the only two really in consideration because I know my boy, third on the depth chart. I don't even remember his name anymore, but I liked him a few years ago.
Boy?
I liked his film a while ago. Don't even remember his name. But I think it's really down to Rattler and Shough. And through 7 games last year where Rattler got an opportunity, he had 228 attempts, 1,300 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 6 big-time throws, 5 interceptions, but 14 turnover-worthy plays with an 8.2 ADOT and a 2.78 time to throw, 49.4 passing grade. So when you're looking at Rattler by himself and what he was able to accomplish last year, it's not great, right? 7 games, 1,300 yards, 4 touchdowns, 6 big-time throws, 14 turnover-worthy plays. Like, that's obviously less than ideal. But we had a lot of conversations about how New Orleans last year was really in a difficult position, right? Offensive line was pretty banged up. They lost a lot of the interior and their rookie tackle for like significant time. They had lost Chris Olave. They didn't really have a lot of receiving weapons after that. So how much can we really buy into what Rattler did? And then looking at what Tyler Shough did this past week in his first preseason game, 22 attempts, 15 completions, 1 touchdown, 1 big-time throw, 1 interception, 1 turnover-worthy play, 7.1 ADOT, 2.82 time to throw, and a 47.8 passing grade also doesn't make you super excited, right? I don't really know what to make of this situation. I think let's start the conversation looking at Rattler last year and talking about what we can actually gain from his experience that we got to see last year.
I tend to try to really zoom out in situations like this where you could simply say, look, everything was bad. Let's start there. There are some times where everything is just bad. And 12 months ago, we were saying that about the New England Patriots on offense. Everything is just bad. So when everything is just bad, are you part of that everything? Or are you a bit of a bright spot, right? Are you a beacon of hope in that everything slop? Drake Maye was a beacon of hope. Drake Maye overcame a ton and exceeded expectations. Spencer Rattler did not. And there weren't great expectations for Spencer Rattler like there was with Drake Maye on the whole, but looking at their situations, we expected any young quarterback to struggle. And while Drake Maye had a lot of the standard things that a young quarterback will typically struggle with or need growth in, Spencer Rattler was all that and then some, as you rattled off there. So I'm just going to take a big step back here and say, unless that surprisingly, unexpectedly, significantly changes and turns itself around this year early on, this is simply one of the standard situations that we've seen in the NFL where the guy that you know is not the future is going to get in there at the start of the season, get beat up, lose a bunch of games, and then they're going to put the future franchise quarterback hopeful in, the first round pick in, or high draft pick in at starter to end the year, try to close out the year with either momentum or hope or a glimpse of the future that you can work with moving forward and work on for development and take it from there, because the Saints are not much better than they were last year. Theoretically, the offensive line will be better. You hope Chris Olave is healthy, but it's not a good roster top to bottom. It's not going to be in a good situation. So unless there's a drastic turnaround, Spencer Rattler, if he ends up being the week 1 starter, to me just looks like the standard cookie cutter vet, if you can even call him that, who's going to be in there to take the hits, the slings and arrows early on, while the future franchise hopeful learns, develops a little bit, and then gets in there after a bunch of losses. That's kind of how I see it shaking out. Again, barring a lot of unforeseen turnarounds and development there in New Orleans.
Do you think that Rattler is going to be the starter? Like, you feel confident in that? Or do you think that the competition still has yet to decide a winner?
I think it's yet to decide a winner. And we sit here recording this on Friday, August 15th, if you didn't pick that up from the intro discussion. And depending on, we got a few things going on. So depending on when this is released, they may have already played their preseason game this weekend. And who knows what kind of crazy story and narrative can come out of that. But even then, I really wouldn't put much stock into preseason week 2. I don't think it's settled. However, I think knowing the state of the franchise and where things sit right now, Rattler has the inside track for week 1. I think anything else beyond that is putting too much credence into a quote unquote winner of the quote unquote quarterback competition in New Orleans?
I'll tell you what, man, I give a lot of credit to first-time head coach Kellen Moore for even for really making it a real competition, right? Like he didn't just draft Shough and say Shough's the quarterback, right? And I think he could have done that. And I think that's what we were all expecting. So to be sitting here on August 15th and be saying that Rattler probably has a shot of this, I think is a good sign that Kellen Moore maybe is just a better coach than maybe we thought he was. Cause I think like that's a sign of a good coach when your best player plays football. I think that's a really good sign. What it also may mean is that the GM who picked in the second round, Tyler Shough, totally missed, and that's a wasted draft pick. That's a different story, another conversation for another day. I think it's way too soon to really decide that as well. But I do think it's a positive sign for Kellen Moore. Let's go to the next kind of competition that's still ongoing, which is the Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones competition in Indianapolis. And I look at Richardson and what he's done on his career so far. It's not much, right? When you look at his number of snaps, I think Sam Monson had tweeted it out. In his high school, college, NFL preseason, NFL regular season career, I think he still has like less snaps than Patrick Mahomes had last year alone, like something insane like that, right? So you're talking about a guy in the NFL that has 348 career attempted throws, 2,391 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, 22 big-time throws, 13 interceptions, 19 turnover-worthy plays, 11.3 ADOT, 2.92 second time to throw, and then a 56.5 rookie passing grade, and then last year a 59.8 passing grade and a 65.1 rushing grade with 635 career rushing yards, 10 touchdowns, and a 65.1 rushing grade. I think just looking at this high level, right, certain things kind of stick out to me, which I think are promising, right? When you talk about a guy that has 22 big-time throws and only 19 turnover-worthy plays with an 11.3 ADOT and a 2.92 time to throw, all of those are like, hey, that's interesting, right? He's not turning over the ball more than he's having big-time throws, which I think is a pretty big positive and something we look at, although his turnover-worthy plays are definitely higher than you'd like them to be. 11.3 ADOT tells me that he's taking significant risk with the way he's throwing the ball, pushing it down the field. And then he's also getting the ball out in under 3 seconds. Like those are all telltale signs that I kind of like some of the stuff this guy's doing. But then you look at his 50-ish passing grade 2 years in a row and you kind of ask yourself, okay, so like while he's doing some good stuff, he must be doing a lot of really bad stuff too, right? Like on a down-to-down basis, he's probably missing a lot of targets. And we know Anthony Richardson has accuracy issues. So even though he might not be putting the ball in harm's way, he might be overthrowing guys and putting it in the dirt and just not altogether making the right decisions, right? Which is why we grade him the way we do. And PFF does that and all 22 replicating that. So it is an interesting career, but it also is one where we haven't seen continuity in his gameplay, right? Like he plays a few games, he gets hurt, misses some time, plays a few games, gets hurt, misses some time. And there just really hasn't been an ongoing kind of array of showing that tells us what he's going to be. And I think that if we saw him for a 16-game season, 17-game season, maybe it would be okay. Like maybe there really would be a lot of upside to his game. I just really think like now he broke his finger. Like, is this, we talked about it a lot last week, so we don't have to go too far into it, but like, is it already too late for him? Or if you're Shane Steichen, I think that's really the question. Are you just risking it with Anthony Richardson instead of going with Daniel Jones, who Daniel Jones, I'll just go into really quick, 2,241 career attempts, 14,583 career passing yards with 70 touchdowns, 69 big-time throws, and 97 turnover-worthy plays with a 7.5 ADOT and a 2.81 time to throw. When I look at those numbers against each other, it tells me, like, just go with Anthony Richardson. Like, if I am the coach, I'm just going to risk it with Anthony Richardson and hope that, you know, he can really put it together. And I have Daniel Jones to fall on if it doesn't work out again. But I know there's also a different crowd of people going, Daniel Jones never really had his fair shake in New York. That team, that offensive line was a mess. He went through a couple coaches during his time there. Nobody was like putting confidence into him. Yeah, so maybe he deserves the opportunity. But if I want to know your opinion, if you're Shane Steichen, with the numbers I just shared with you, what are you doing?
So I don't when you say, hey, let's just go with Anthony Richardson, right? And just, are you risking it by not doing so? I think the only person putting themselves at risk is Anthony Richardson. If you can't properly execute on a day one install type of protection without hurting yourself, you're not going to last the full season. He hasn't, and he puts himself in harm's way. It's just bad all around. I hate this saying. I hate this saying, but like whatever it is, and I'm not talking like the Tom Brady no, just like the general the feel for playing the quarterback position just at a baseline level to succeed in the NFL. Anthony Richardson does not have it. He just doesn't have it. He didn't have it at Florida. He was drafted as high as he was because of being really big, really having a really good arm, and being pretty mobile and athletic. But if you watched him at Florida, he wasn't a good quarterback, and he still isn't a good quarterback. So with a limited number of total career snaps, okay, he's basically Trey Lance on like an ultra-processed food diet. That's all it is. The similarities are pretty much the same there. And he's putting himself in harm's way because he's not ready when he goes out on the field. And when he is out on the field and they're trying to execute a hurry-up offense, he gets tired and takes himself off the field. I sound like I'm on like AM radio with this type of talk about Anthony Richardson and quarterbacks, but there really is a certain baseline you have to have at the quarterback position, and Richardson just doesn't have it. He doesn't have the requisite accuracy, pocket awareness, pre-snap awareness. He just doesn't have that feel. So I think as a coach, I think you have to go with Daniel Jones, knowing that that's not the answer either. The answer is just not on the roster. This is like taking a test. This is like taking the SATs, and you're given multiple choice, and none of them are the correct answer. All right. That coaching staff is being asked to solve, 2 + 2, and their choices are 1, 3, 12, and 15. And just none of them are correct. And there's nothing they can do. There's no right answer. So I would go with Daniel Jones. He's going to win maybe 6 games, 7 games with that supporting cast, probably play your way out of one of the top quarterbacks in this draft. And now you're just stuck as a franchise. But if you put Anthony Richardson out there, I don't think you could realistically expect him to hold up over the course of the year. And if he does, then sure, then you just, you probably guaranteed yourself a top 2 or 3 pick in the draft, which I guess is ideally what you want if I'm in charge. But if I'm not a coach getting, my paycheck signed by the Indianapolis Colts and trying to win now to keep those paychecks coming in. So again, incentives sometimes differ from long-term benefit of your franchise. And this is just one of those times where they might be stuck as a franchise because there are no right answers at the quarterback position.
Yeah, it is. It's difficult. I think we're going to disagree on this. I have really changed my mind looking at the numbers and looking what Anthony Richardson, when you look at the analytics, like it's not that bad when you really look into like, hey, he doesn't put the ball into harm's way that much, and he is pushing the ball down the field and he's getting the ball out quick. It's like, it tells me to continue to try to invest, because I'm also the guy that's like, die on your sword. Like, if it's not going to work out, let it not work out. And this way you're at least in a better position, right? Like if Daniel Jones goes out there and becomes Sam Darnold, then you're a middling playoff team and you're not winning a Super Bowl. I don't know if that's better, right?
Don't blame Sam Darnold for that. Don't bring Sam Darnold into this. But I'll let you finish. I got one more thing to add when you're done.
It's just I am that type of guy where it's like, okay, if you think Anthony Richardson has talent that can elevate you to the next level, go for it. And if he doesn't, fall on your face and draft the next guy to take a shot with, right? Like I don't think Daniel Jones is saving any franchises the same way I don't think Sam Darnold's saving any franchises. But go ahead. What's your take?
So you talked about kind of what changed your mind in looking at these numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what changed my mind is talking to someone who talks to players on the Colts pretty recently. And it was basically like, nah, man, nah, it's just not happening. And I get it, as a coach, if I call something and I can't trust you to get the basics correct, just can't do it. The ceiling is too low for however high, the floor is too low for however high the ceiling we think it actually is. But yeah, I talked to 2 degrees of separation. Talked to some people. We talked to some people on the Colts, like in helmets and pads for this guy, and yeah, it's not going to work out. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, it's sad. I also think there's a world where if I'm Anthony Richardson and they decide not to start me, I don't really see my future being there. And I don't know if I demand a trade, right? Because there's not many opportunities that are going to arise and say, like, yeah, come be our quarterback. We'll give you a shot. Like, I just don't think that's really out there for him. And at a certain point, like, I hate to be this guy, but like, do you start to say, Anthony Richardson, go learn how to catch a ball, a tight end, right? Like, you're a big dude, you're fast. Like, there's one thing we talked about with Jalen Milroe this offseason when we were evaluating him, where it's like, he moves different, right? Like when you see Lamar move, when you see Jayden Daniels move, Jalen Milroe has movement skills beyond just I'm a fast 40 time, right? Like he moves really well. Anthony Richardson doesn't. Like he is just a 40 time. And I wonder if it's like, hey, you need to go learn a different position because the skill that we thought you were going to bring with your athleticism isn't elevating you at quarterback. Let's go see if it's going to elevate you somewhere else, right? And if you're Anthony Richardson, like, do you want to like just kind of go through this career of for 2 more years, somebody's going to take you as a backup before no team wants to even touch you because you're not good enough? Or do you go learn a position where you can actually be effective in the NFL because you are a great athlete and you try really hard and you're smart, right? Like, can you go do that? Am I crazy?
So I think if you have trouble seeing the field, like standing up under center as the quarterback before the play, I can just imagine the difficulty you'll have in a 3-point stance, like lined up as an H-back with the line in front of you. And you're trying to like.
Can he play edge? Can he play edge? Like let's find a solution here, Betty. Just go straight. Go to the quarterback.
He can run. He can be an up back on punt team.
Oh no! Come on, man.
Dude, that's my favorite default. If you're big but you can't really like do anything else, just you're the up back, dude. You're just the up back in front of the punter.
I hate that. I
don't know what else
despise that. All right. Well, anyway, let's move on. Let's go to the other rookie quarterbacks of this class and talk about some of their performances. So, I mean, the big one everybody was talking about, right, was Shedeur Sanders, 23 attempts, 14 completions, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 big-time throws, 0 interceptions, 0 turnover-worthy plays, 8.1 ADOT, but a 3.48 time to throw, 75.4 passing grade, 4 rushes for 19 yards, and a 78.4 rushing grade. I mean, like, great job, Shedeur Sanders. I think it's an awesome way to start your career. It's an awesome way to make a flash, right? And prove to people I'm not giving up on myself either, right? Because a lot of people were giving up on you. So all in all, I think it's a really positive thing for Shedeur to go out there and do that. I will also say I don't think it's anywhere close to a closed door on the other guys. I still think this is a very open competition. And I think Shedeur, Gabriel, Pickett, Flacco, like they're going to need to go out there the next 2 preseason games. Is it 3 preseason games now? Or is it still 4?
Two more.
Yeah, 2 more. Go out there the next 2 games and you have to ball out. And I think it's very far from being decided, but still very positive for what he did. What do you think?
You can't take advantage of the other young quarterbacks being hurt and injured. And then after your great game, you just hurt your oblique and now you're not playing. You just can't do that. That's like the last thing you can afford to have happen. Whether it's because he was in a good spot to set himself up as the next guy up once they turn away from Flacco, if they ever do in season. He positioned himself pretty well after week 1. There was still, it's Shedeur Sanders, so everyone's going to take it to an extreme one way or the other. There were still a lot of things to clean up and some things that could just be done more efficiently that, will just come with time. So it was definitely encouraging and positive. But when you have a lead, just you got to keep that momentum going because you don't want to lose that momentum. And he just lost it with an oblique injury and he's missing this week in preseason. And maybe it amounts to nothing. Maybe Gabriel goes in there, looks pedestrian. Nobody really separates themselves. And, then I almost said then great. It's not great. Not for those guys, but then fine. But you don't want to not be available after performance like that. You want to build on that and solidify your lead above the rest of those guys so that you're in position to take over as what I see as the number 2 guy after Joe Flacco on the depth chart here moving forward. And this, I think people aren't talking about enough, could be a damper on that.
Yeah, the injury thing is a huge concern. Gabriel getting hurt, huge concern, right? Like getting pulled from your opportunity. I think Gabriel is going to be starting with the first team during this preseason game. So we're going to get to see something similar. I will say, right, like going through the numbers for the rookie quarterbacks, which we're about to do, one thing you could say about Shedeur, at least he went with the first team and he went against probably a lot of first team starters on the defensive side of the ball, right? So like he was going against real competition. There is a little bit of a hamper, right, where you say 3.48 time to throw is crazy high and it's not sustainable. And it's something we saw in college a lot, right, which was a huge concern of ours. And if you look at that one touchdown he threw to the back of the end zone on the left side, like there was no pressure, right? Like he stood in the pocket, kind of drifted to his left, got to kind of just like sit there and then place the ball. And he threw a perfect ball, but there was no pressure, right? And that's not a realistic situation in my mind. So while some of his other throws I thought were great, again, preseason grain of salt, first offensive line out there, like Browns interior offensive line is pretty freaking good. Like you're going to have some time to throw sometimes. Let's see how things play out. Let's see what Dillon Gabriel does before we kind of declare a winner. Let's go to Jaxson Dart on the Giants, who also had a pretty nice showing, right? 19 attempts, 12 completions, 154 yards, a touchdown, a big-time throw, no interceptions, no turnover-worthy plays, a 7.0 ADOT and 2.64 time to throw, 3 rushes, 24 yards, 61.1 rushing grade, 75.2 passing grade. Another really good performance from a rookie. Like, I don't really know what else to say except for he looked competent, right? Which is, I think, what a lot of people were concerned is that he was going to go in there and maybe not look competent, look like a Will Levis or a Drew Lock or like that kind of quarterback where some of his skill sets do replicate, right? So I think it is a positive thing. What do you think?
It was positive. He looked pretty good. And just looking at the Giants, I don't think the question is whether or not Jaxson Dart is the day one starter. It's going to be Russell Wilson. But if you look at that schedule, the Giants start with the Commanders on the road, the Cowboys on the road, then they're home against the Chiefs, and then home against the Chargers. That's their September slate. How many wins do you have on that 4-game stretch right there?
0?
Yeah. Yeah. So
sorry, I was holding up my hand, but people probably can't see me.
Yeah. I was looking at the schedule. So if you start out 0-4 and you have the Saints in week 5 on October 5th, that's a pretty darn good place to, sort of get a shot in the arm there and put in Jaxson Dart, I guess. That's, if there's one game to start, your first, go against the Saints. That's a weak roster too. You go against the Saints, get your first win as a rookie, and it's the first win of the season for the team that was 0-4 before you went in there. That's really good. You're feeling really good until you play the Eagles the next week. And then you're going to go right back down to earth. But what better starting point for a rookie quarterback? I think with the tough September slate, Jaxson Dart continues to look good for the rest of the preseason here. They're going to, it's New York. They're not going to go 0-4 and not have just 5-alarm fires going off in every direction to make a change at quarterback. So
the only thing is like their defense is going to be good. Like it might not be special, like top 3 in the NFL, but like if they're going to get a lot of pressure, right? Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, like that's going to be nasty, right? And Javon Holland on the back end might get some turnovers because of that. Like this might be a really interesting defense that if Russell Wilson just like doesn't turn the ball over a lot, maybe they win the turnover battle a lot and they do win some games, right? Like that is an option here. I agree with you. I think the Saints in week 5 is a great opportunity for him to start kind of low pressure. But if the Giants defense holds them in some games, I think it's possible we're sitting here and maybe they're 1-3. Maybe they're 2-2, but realistically, they're probably 0-4.
Yeah, it's tough, and yeah, Russ might not turn the ball over, but I don't see much there that's going to against those 4 teams keep moving the ball and staying in the game. I just don't see the firepower there, And maybe there's nothing going on with Malik Neighbors, but maybe there is. He's kind of missed a bit too much time for this to be maintenance. These are not veteran days off that he's taking. There's something there. And perhaps a part of that is that's what happens when you put so much on the shoulders of a young player with nothing else around him. He got beat up last year. Malik Neighbors, without a doubt, got beat up last year. And if he's already having these sorts of issues and a toe problem and everything else in August, before he's still 21 years old, for crying out loud. I don't know. I'm just saying, I hope we can see the best of Malik Neighbors moving forward here. This is one of my favorite players to watch. For most people, I think, in the NFL, one of the most exciting players to watch at any position. And so I would hate to see him beaten up or have too much on his plate because there's not enough weapons around him. And sometimes if you have a young athletic quarterback, Russ used to be that guy. He's just not at this stage of his career. But if Dart can be that guy, using his legs a little bit more, picking up some first downs on the ground, that kind of opened things up a little bit, halfway through the season or a third of the way through the season, I think that helps everybody. I really do. I really think it does. So yeah, I'm looking at September and after that saying, okay, maybe that's when they make the move to Jaxson Dart because he's played well enough to say, hey, give it a shot here. If he looked, like a rookie that needed a lot more time in the preseason, you don't want to throw him in there under the pressure of an 0-4 start, regardless of who he's playing. You don't want to put that on his plate. But I think in this scenario, it might make sense. And I know someone's probably screaming, well, Jameis is the shot. Sure. Yeah. Okay. But I'm not going to, if I could put Jaxson Dart up against the Saints, I'm going to do that before I put Jameis. And then I'm already thinking of the storylines, Jameis in New Orleans. I'm not going to go there. We know what the future is in New York. Let's focus on that. And I love Jameis. Right. I do.
So Jaxson Dart, week 5 starter for the Giants is the prediction. The next guy is going to be the week 1 starter, bearing something tragic, which obviously we don't want to happen. But Cam Ward, right? Really kind of like quick start, right? Only 8 attempts, 5 completions, 67 yards, no touchdowns, no big time throws, no interceptions, 1 turnover worthy play, a 10.0 ADOT, 3.04 time to throw, 54.41 passing grade. It didn't blow anyone away. It would probably left a lot of people wanting more, which is exactly what you want as the Titans, getting your quarterback ready for week 1. They obviously didn't want to throw him out there too much and just like let him burn, right? Like we're just getting a little taste. And I think it was what we expected, right? A guy that's pushing the ball down the field with a 10.0 ADOT, taking a little bit too long to throw the ball, over 3 seconds, right? And also like not a lot happening right now, right? Like I think there will be big time throws for sure for this guy. It's just hard considering what that Titans offense looks like. And that's what I've been kind of screaming that from the rafters, right? Like I like Cam Ward. I'm all for Cam Ward. But when Calvin Ridley is really your only receiving option on that team, like including tight ends, including running backs, like that's a huge concern for me for a rookie quarterback. And I do think it's going to be hard when this guy is, kind of the first overall pick savior guy. It's hard to be successful that way. So he's obviously the day 1 starter, but I'm very cautious about what this season looks like. Very excited for his future after that.
Yeah. This is one I would want to check on in 2026. Because I don't want to take too much away from 2025, because I think it's going to be really easy for people to hop on here after a few games this upcoming season. See, he's holding on to the ball too long. He's putting the ball in harm's way. These were all things we saw at Miami, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, of course, that is going to happen in this offensive situation. It just is. There's no way around it. Maybe there's a surprise week or 2 in there where he looks really good. That's who Cam Ward is. But there's going to be a lot of opportunity to sit there and say, I told you so, if you focus on the negatives of his game, just because of the situation he's in right now. So we all need to take a step back and let's just see where this is in 12 months. I can't make a judgment on Cam Ward either way, but hoping it works out for him.
All right. Last rookie
that
quarterback.
Shortest segment of the bunch there.
He had the shortest performance. So I think it's fair. Jalen Milroe is the last rookie quarterback we'll talk about before going into the sophomores. But Jalen Milroe, 6 completions on 10 attempts, 61 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 big time throws, 0 interceptions, 1 turnover worthy play, 9.8 ADOT, 3.11 time to throw, 50.7 passing grade, 3 rushes for 38 yards, and a 64.4 rushing grade. It's funny because the numbers are very similar to Cam Ward's, like almost exactly, right? Like it's kind of eerie. But the reviews were pretty poor on Jalen Milroe. I think people were a little upset by his performance. Again, I don't think you can learn a lot from 10 attempts. I don't think he got enough time for us to really be making a decision. And I really think it's going to depend on what the Seahawks season ends up looking like, whether or not this guy's going to get an opportunity at some point throughout the year. They obviously just signed Sam Darnold. They're preaching Sam Darnold's the guy. But I think if things go really bad at some point, he will get an opportunity, him being Milroe. But I don't really see that happening this year, maybe next year. I think this year is going to be like, they're going to be like around a 500 team. They're going to be pushing for the playoffs. Whether or not they make it, kind of irrelevant. So Jalen Milroe, in my opinion, probably doesn't get an opportunity besides some gimmicky plays. Yeah,
it's going to take a whole lot for me to just simply change my stance from no. No. Jalen Milroe is just a no. He might. This is the All 22 podcast. In fantasy, if he gets a chance to start, there's going to be a nice sugar rush for a few weeks where everyone's like, yeah, he's rushing and he's getting yards and he gets some touchdowns. But the answer is no on Jalen Milroe as a quarterback over the long haul. The answer is just no until it's not. And don't argue with me. I'm just going to turn on his final game at Alabama and just have that on repeat and just loop it over and over again. And whatever you say to me doesn't matter because that guy shows up. Sooner or later, that guy shows up. And
has there ever been a quarterback in the NFL that's been this good of a rushing threat that hasn't, or that's gotten an opportunity, right? Like that maybe isn't as good of a thrower, but is this good of a rusher, right? Like Mike Vick was a great thrower, Lamar, great thrower, but has anybody ever been like this guy where he plays quarterback, he's this special of a rusher,
but doesn't have it in the arm?
Who doesn't have it in the arm? Like Anthony Richardson, we just talked about, like
the answer
doesn't
is yes.
have it. Who?
No, the answer is yes, but we don't know who because we forget about those guys because they don't stick around because you need that to stick around in the NFL. The answer is unequivocally yes. Unequivocally yes. But who? Hell if I know. There's always
if you know, if you're out there listening, drop it in the comments because I'm just so curious.
There's tons. There's tons. So someone might say, dude on the Saints, who I remember now is just a tight end, not even a quarterback anymore. How in the world am I? Well, I told you I'm forgetting this already at this point.
Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill. Yeah, someone might say, well, Taysom Hill can't. He's not really a functional quarterback, but he can run and he's really good. And maybe
Taysom Hill
sure.
balls.
What's that?
Taysom Hill is a baller. Get his name out of your mouth. Dude is the best athlete on the field.
I'm saying someone might say that. What I'm saying is that just no. The answer is no on Jalen Milroe. It just is. It's just a no. Don't argue with me either. I'm not listening to you.
I'm just not in the mood to argue with you, so I'm just not going to. Although I think there is an argument. I think there's an argument there. Let's go ahead. We will go into the sophomore year quarterbacks, and what I want to do here is I want to kind of like reevaluate the numbers and what we thought happened, because when I looked at some of these numbers, it kind of surprised me a little because either people were being talked about in an overinflated way, or maybe people weren't being talked about as good as they should have. And I think that there's a conversation to be had. Let's start off with the number one overall pick last year, which is Caleb Williams, who did start all 17 games last year. 562 passing attempts, 3,541 yards, 20 touchdowns, 24 big-time throws, 6 interceptions, but 19 turnover-worthy plays, an 8.1 ADOT, and a 3.03 time to throw with a 63.5 passing grade, 489 rushing yards, 0 touchdowns, 10 fumbles, and an 80.4 rushing grade. So it actually, he was one that surprised me a little, right? Mostly because I didn't expect him to have had as many big-time throws as he did, while also having so many turnovers, right? 19 turnover-worthy plays, 10 fumbles. Like that is a lot of giving the ball up and putting it in harm's way that it cannot continue, right? But it's also something very common for rookie quarterbacks, even the best ones. Like you look at Peyton Manning's rookie year, like dude turned the ball over way too much and then he settled down. Like I'm pleasantly surprised by the numbers with Caleb. 3,500 passing yards is a milestone for a Bears quarterback. Like it just is. Again, 24 big time throws, 8.1 ADOT. That's solid, right? And then almost 500 rushing yards. Like I did not realize he had that many rushing yards. It tells me with Ben Johnson and the offense that he's getting into, this in his sophomore season with the addition of Luther Burden and Colston Loveland. We've said it before, we'll say it again. I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be successful unless he just doesn't have it mentally. Like, and that's really going to be the deciding factor. Is he tough enough, right? Like, is he mentally tough enough to endure when times get hard like they did last year? What do you think?
The answer is yes until it's not. This is just flip it. Just flip what we just talked about with Jalen Milroe, because with Caleb, the answer is yes until it's not. And there's the reports out there and the tidbits about Ben Johnson was frustrated with Caleb today and this and Caleb missed this throw. That's exactly the type of stuff someone like Ben Johnson would have out there in August before he goes out there in September and has these people looking like the Lions that we just watched the last 2 years on offense with those weapons. If he could do that with Goff, he could do that with Caleb. It's that simple. There's just, as prospects, there's no comparison between the two. Obviously, Goff became a pro and developed and has grown in the league, and Caleb has to do that. But if Ben Johnson can do that with Jared Goff, he absolutely can do that with Caleb. And the nonsense about, missing throws, that's exactly what he would have out there in August. I'm not sweating it at all until I have legitimate reason to sweat it. Until then, yeah, a talented quarterback in a Ben Johnson offense with DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet, an improving average, above average offensive line, however you want to frame it. That's exactly what we need. That's exactly what we want. That's exactly what Chicago has needed forever. So yeah, no, the answer is yes. The answer is, whatever the question is, the answer is yes on Caleb and Ben Johnson. That simple.
And the interesting thing about it, right, is like when you look at past rookie quarterback draft classes, right, you can go back and say, after a year, I thought this. After 3 years, I think this, right? I think something different. Are we so sure right now, being a couple of years removed, that CJ Stroud is going to be better than Bryce Young? I'm still leaning towards CJ Stroud over Bryce Young long-term, but I think it's a conversation now, right? And when you look at Joe Burrow, Tua, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts draft class, are you so sure that, Jalen Hurts isn't, and Justin Herbert was in that class too. Holy cow. Are you so sure that Justin Herbert won't eventually be the best? Are you so sure that Jalen Hurts won't have the most special career? Like, I can't sit here today and tell you that Joe Burrow is definitely the guy, or that Tua should have been the number 2 overall pick, right, over the other guys, just because of the rookie season maybe that those guys had. Jordan Love didn't start till year 5, right? Jalen Hurts didn't really get an opportunity till year 2. Like, I think you need to wait a couple of years to really see how these things play out before you rule out Caleb being in the conversation for the best quarterback of this draft class, even though Jayden Daniels, who we're going to talk about next, really did have a special year. And let's jump into it. 480 attempts, 3,568 yards, 25 touchdowns, 20 big-time throws, only 9 interceptions, 11 turnover-worthy plays, 7.9 ADOT, 2.97 time to throw, an 83 passing grade with 891 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns, 5 fumbles, and an 88.2 rushing grade. So when you look at him and compare him to Caleb Williams' numbers, the things that jump out to me is Caleb actually had more big-time throws, but he also had 8 more turnover-worthy plays, right? So like that has to change. That can really determine a season, right? It could, if you turn the ball over 8 more times than your opponent, you're going to lose every game, right? You're going to lose all of those games. Also, 891 rushing yards compared to 489. Like Jayden Daniels, we know, is a different type of rushing threat. Where Caleb is competent, Jalen Daniels excels in rushing offense. So we're sitting here in year 2 looking at Jayden Daniels. Do we think he replicates this? Do we think he grows on it? Do we think he gets even better? Or do we think there's a bit of a regression ahead?
There's always a regression ahead, and that has nothing to do with Jayden Daniels. It's just natural. There was a regression for Pat Mahomes after a couple of years. It just happens. It's natural in the NFL. And you said it. The way you feel after year 1 is not the same you feel after year 3 or even year 5. That can change. And to me, that's part of the natural progression I talk about, where, especially with mobile or athletic quarterbacks, you kind of take the league by storm with your style of play and how you make plays. Then they adjust, and now it's all about how you adjust to their adjustment. And I think that's what's going to happen here with Jayden Daniels. His division as a whole, none of it's easy now. I mean, everyone kind of penciled in the Giants for 2 wins in the NFC East whenever they were on the schedule, and that probably still is so, but in the sense that it's easy for Jayden Daniels to go up against that defensive front now, like you mentioned, with the addition of Abdul Carter alongside Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau, and obviously Dexter Lawrence on the interior. It's just not the case anymore. They got better in the secondary too. And I think these coaches have seen him now. There's going to be an adjustment to Jayden Daniels' game where that very low ADOT, get rid of it quickly, or then use your legs and athletic ability to kind of get you out of trouble. Obviously, it's always going to be there at times, but not to the same degree it was last year as a rookie. So there's going to be an adjustment period. I think this is a natural regression point in year 2 for Jayden Daniels. And again, he can still be very good or just good because the bar was set really high in year 1 from him. So it's not a slight to say there's going to be some regression because that's just part of the natural development curve for me. So I think there's absolutely a step back in play for Jayden Daniels in the short term. And then we'll see where he goes from there. Can he then take that and then make that next leap in year 3 and beyond? To me, that's when quarterbacks solidify their place in the league, is when they have to take that, generate that positive momentum again after the natural, inevitable regression and adjustment from the league to their games. Every top quarterback on any list that you see out there has had to do that. So Jayden Daniels has to do the same. But in the short term, I do think there's going to be a bit of a regression. And again, that could still mean he's good and a good player for you in all 22 or any other platform. But don't get your hopes up too high or just automatically expect that he's just going to pick up exactly where he left off last year as a rookie.
I think you're spot on, right? And I think one thing to point out, this is always the decider for me. How do you play after you've been paid and your team can no longer trade for Laramie Tunsil and Deebo Samuel in the offseason to give you the best supporting cast possible that other teams just can't do, right? And that's when I was talking about, when you look at Jalen Hurts still doing it. Jordan Love, is probably league average, but that's still pretty good compared to what people probably expected of him. Joe Burrow, Tua, like those guys, Justin Herbert, all continued to be good after they were paid and the team around them started to dwindle. When you talked about Patrick Mahomes, we saw a regression, right? After they kind of got rid of Tyreek Hill and now Travis Kelce even starting to kind of slow down his career. Patrick Mahomes is still great though, right? And there is a little bit of a regression because the team around him isn't as good. The offensive line isn't as good, but he's still so special. So he's able to maintain year over year and be competitive. I think Jayden Daniels is that kind of guy. He'll be fine. But yeah, you're right. We probably won't know for a few more years, although there will be a slight regression probably in the next year or two. Drake Maye is the one that was probably the most eye-opening to me as well when looking at these numbers, because I didn't realize that he played as much as he did. And he played 13 games. I forget these things after an entire offseason and an entire scouting, a scouting year that we go through. It's like, oh yeah, Drake Maye played 13 games, right? So he played a lot, and these numbers probably are an accurate reflection if you kind of divided by 17 or whatever, multiplied, the math that correlates to him playing for 17 games. Like, what would they look like? He only had 2,276 passing yards, which is still solid, 15 touchdowns, 14 big time throws, but 10 interceptions and 16 turnover-worthy plays. So more turnover-worthy plays than big-time throws. Of the 3 quarterbacks we've talked about so far, he is the only one to have more turnover-worthy plays than big-time throws. 7.4 ADOT and a 2.82 time to throw, 64.9 passing grade, 421 rushing yards with 2 touchdowns, 9 fumbles, 82.9. So similar kind of conversation to Caleb in that he turned the ball over too much. He put the ball in harm's way too much. 16 turnover-worthy plays and nine fumbles in just 13 games over the course of its 17-game season is probably like 20 turnover-worthy plays and 13 fumbles, right? Like something like that. That's too much, right? And that's, again, it's rookie quarterbacks. It's young guys. They make mistakes. But one thing I just forgot as well is I looked up how old Drake Maye is. He is still 22 years old. He turns 23 this month. We're talking about a quarterback that is still very, very young. But that was the concern I had about Drake Maye entering the NFL at the age he did. Was he too inexperienced to actually be able to take these lumps and continue forward? I think the reason also the numbers didn't really match what I had heard is because people are looking at it and going, he did all of that with that Patriots roster, which is special to do because that roster was atrocious and it got a lot better this year. The defensive side of the ball through free agency, they did a lot. They had Stephon Diggs, Will Campbell at tackle, Travion Henderson at running back, and that roster starts to feel a lot better. Can he take what he did last year and be significantly better? Because in my mind, again, he was better than his numbers suggest, but the numbers kind of paint a picture for me that this is a guy that if he does that again, there's going to be conversations that he's not a starting quarterback in the NFL.
I mean, that might be a little harsh, but I was going to say, I think he could do something similar to that again. Those numbers you laid out. I think probably a little more on the big time throw side, a little less on the turnover worthy play side, because at least Diggs is a veteran. He's a route runner who knows how to get open and is familiar with that division, so on and so forth. But I still don't think it's that great. Like, I think at best that offensive roster is average around him. I don't think it's that great.
I don't think it is. I think it's still bad.
And I don't think there's anything special anywhere. I think there's something very intriguing with Travion Henderson, and you like what you see there, and that's great. And I think he can be very good. But that offensive line still needs work, still needs help. Diggs is older and coming off of an injury, so for all that he can provide, he's not going to be a game breaker. He's not going to be a get out of jail free card. He's not going to be someone that makes the offense right when it is otherwise wrong, which is what true top wide receivers do. So at best, it's average. It's probably still below average environment for Drake Maye. So when you have a below average environment and some tape on you from the NFL now after 13 games, I think there could be a quote unquote regression that's kind of balanced out by the fact that it is better than last year. And we touched on it a little bit in a previous episode, or you did with Upper Hand Fantasy on our show here, about how there wasn't a lot of designed plays in that offense for Drake Maye to use his legs. And so if there's just a little bit more of that with a dynamic athlete in the backfield like Travion Henderson, just to make things a little bit easier and try to stay in front of the chains a little more often on script on offense, I think that helps Drake Maye enough to where he doesn't go from, in a vacuum, okay last year to good or very good this year, but all things considered, maintains a pretty decent level of play overall. And then they still just have to work on that roster heading into his year 3. And then you can kind of really go from there, because he's shown that he can do more with less, but he's still working with less. But now opposing defenses have more as far as tape to go off of and how to defend this guy. So to me, I think it kind of comes out in the wash this year. There's going to be marginal overall improvement in production, but I think enough there that obviously you're encouraged about what he is for your future, but those guys still need work. I think the answer isn't what more can Drake Maye do for us, as opposed to, okay, what can we do for Drake Maye now after 2025, as far as how the Patriots really take it and progress to the next level as a team and as an offense.
Yeah. And, we're talking about how their offense is probably below league, like the middle of the league in terms of like overall talent. But you have to look at Mike Vrabel and think that he has had successful offensive line play for basically his entire career and basically been able to take a team and elevate them year over year. Josh McDaniels as the OC, like he's been a terrible head coach, but he's a pretty good offensive coordinator and has shown ability to kind of handle these kind of situations in a good way. I think Drake Maye, I'm still feeling positive about him. Like I'm still thinking that there is going to be progress made. I don't necessarily think we see a decline from what we saw last year. I think it gets better because I do think the talent around him is better. Again, whether or not that's Stephon Diggs or the receiver they got, Kyle
Williams.
Kyle Williams.
Yeah.
I think Travion Henderson makes a big difference on that offense because you could do so much with him and he's going to be a quarterback's best friend. So like, I think the offense did get better with the coaching staff, hopefully making the offensive line better. I do think we see a better Drake Maye. I think I am cautiously optimistic because, again, if we see the same type of play we saw last year, again, where you're turning over the ball as much as you did and a lot more than you were creating special plays, it's going to be a problem long term. And again, it's going to be where people start to question whether or not he's a quarterback in the league. Michael Penix being the next guy that we should talk about here, only played in 5 games, right? Kirk Cousins goes down. Michael Penix steps in, 5 games, 105 attempts, 775 yards, 3 touchdowns, 10 big-time throws, 3 interceptions, and only 2 turnover-worthy plays with a 10.6 ADOT, 2.66 time to throw, 87.6 passing grade, 11 yards rushing, 1 touchdown, 2 fumbles. I don't think it's surprising to me that Penix did what he did for multiple reasons. One, this is a guy that is significantly older than the average rookie in the NFL. So we're talking about a guy with a lot of college experience who should be able to step into an NFL game and be competent. But we're also talking about a guy that is a good football player. Like, he's good and he's older. So he's going to be able to step in a game and be good. And he also only did it for 5 games. So like you talk about, like, teams start to figure you out, defenses start to figure you out and can kind of adjust to what you're doing. I don't think NFL teams got to do that with Penix Jr., which kind of made that, all right, 10 big time throws in 5 games. That's average of 2 a game. And then 2 turnover worthy plays. That's less than half of a turnover worthy play a game. Can that actually continue? I'm going to say a hard no. I think that's a tough stance to take because I know a lot of people are excited about him. But I think in a 17-game season, we start to see those numbers level out. We still see him taking a lot of shots down the field and getting the ball out quickly and trusting his playmakers. But I do think that ratio starts to change considerably. And again, not that we're not seeing a good quarterback in the NFL, but I think it's going to look a lot closer to maybe like what Caleb looked like last year than what Jayden Daniels looked like last year. That's just kind of my stance.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you're going to be encouraged overall by Michael Penix's first year. But, as fans, I think naturally you get your expectations, higher and higher. You kind of sell yourself on the upside and don't consider enough of the downside or what is just a natural sort of growth curve and growing pains for a player like Michael Penix. So first off, please just stay healthy given his injury history in college. But I think overall you're going to be encouraged, but probably aren't factoring in enough what is truly encouraging for a young NFL quarterback like this versus what you've just gotten yourself so excited about with the prospect of a young Michael Penix with a lot of these outside weapons after, old Kirk Cousins and being bogged down by that. I think, there's probably a little bit of a comeuppance needed there, a little bit of a correction there in expectations. But I think you come out of 2025 really excited about what Penix can be health providing moving forward. And to me, the biggest beneficiary of this is going to be Drake London. I don't think that's really breaking any news here. That's been said sort of throughout the summer, and it's been seen at training camp by and large and by all accounts that Drake London and this guy have a really good rapport, and they're going to be hooking up quite a bit on the field there. So I'm a big fan of what that duo is going to look like and what this means for Drake London moving forward. But again, please be realistic about what to expect from a young quarterback in his first extended action and full season as a starting quarterback in the NFL. It is not easy. And just because you really like his receivers on the outside and you really think Kyle Pitts might be something this year, that all of a sudden it's just going to all come together and look just, it's not going to always look pretty, but I think it's going to be good. And we're going to be excited about Michael Penix here moving forward.
Can you give Kyle Pitts a break, dude? He's still 23 years old. He's actually 24. He's actually 24.
Nah, I'm done. I'm done with him. I'm done.
That's like we talk about how tight ends don't make it in the league until they're like 26 or 27. He's still 24 years old. Like, we need to be a little bit more gentle.
But is he even a tight end though? Is he even a tight end? He's just dressed up as a tight end, but he's really a receiver. And at 24, like, and I know he has 1,000-yard year under his belt, but like, yeah, so what, dude? Like,
but are you giving up on Sam Laporta?
Why would I give up on Sam Laporta? No.
Because it's like he had 1,000 yards as a rookie or close to it. And like, what did he do last year? Like, it was half of that. That's just what tight ends do, dude.
Yeah, Laporta had some injuries though. It's different. It's different.
Oh my God.
I know Pitts has had injuries too in the knee, but it's like, first off, Pitts has like been in the NFL for like 8 years already. I know he's 24.
4.
Yeah, 4. He's going into year 5 already. So just like, I'm not saying that he's not good. I'm not saying like, he's a bust and just throw him out. I'm just saying, like, I don't want to hear like, oh, but Kyle Pitts, why doesn't he have 1,100 yards this year? I don't want to hear that anymore. Like, if he has 680 yards on the season, You should be like, that's a really good tight end season. He's kind of, he's doing good. He's solid.
You shouldn't care about yards in all 22, so don't even care about that.
You shouldn't.
Don't even care about
You're expecting him to block now. You're expecting him to really scoop out the fourth player on the line of scrimmage.
I'm hoping he has a great receiving grade. That's what I'm hoping. Great receiving grade, great overall grade. That's what I want from Kyle Pitts. All right, enough of that. Michael Penix, we're thinking it's going to be tampered expectations, but still a positive year for him. So still a buy, right?
Yeah, like let's go to 15-ish quarterback in 2025. He's 15.
Top 15. I'm going to say top 20. I think top 15 might be brave. And it could be accurate, but I think top 20 is even being a little bit more cautious.
It's real scary in those late teams there, Chris. I don't know. That's true. If there's that much out there.
Bo Nix, 17 games starting, 567 attempts, 3,775 yards passing, 29 touchdowns, 21 big-time throws, 12 interceptions, 13 turnover-worthy plays, 7.8 ADOT, 2.97 time to throw, 72.8 passing grade, 430 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 fumbles, and 77.0 rushing grade. So I think the thing that surprised me, right? We knew Bo Nix was kind of in a scripted role at Oregon, and we expected him to struggle a little bit going to the NFL, and maybe it wouldn't be as scripted. But I think what we saw was that he ran the offense really efficiently, right? When you look at his numbers and say, okay, he only had 21 big-time throws. That's less than Caleb. That's, similar to what Jayden Daniels had, but Jayden Daniels had way more rushing production. And then you say, oh, but he had 13 turnover-worthy plays, which is obviously less than Caleb, but it's also more than Jayden Daniels, like significantly. And you start to say to yourself, like, was he only asked to really be a game manager, right? Like less than 7.8 or 7.8 ADOT, less than 3-second time to throw, got the ball out quick. Where are we with Bo Nix? Like, what world does Bo Nix live in? Because I think there was people that were saying he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, and there was people that were still like, nah, he's not good enough. And I think that if you had to ask me today, if I had to make up my mind, I'm probably still taking him above Drake Maye, just based on the seasons they had last year, and Michael Penix Jr., but it's closer to those guys than it is Caleb and Jayden Daniels for me.
Well, Bo Nix is older than Kyle Pitts. Let's just get that out of the way first. I will take Bo Nix over Drake Maye in 2026 or 2025. Probably in 2026. Unless the Patriots really screw this up, I'm taking Drake Maye in 2027 and beyond. So pretty much like when Drake Maye is
you had to decide now. You're playing dynasty football. Who are you taking? Because you can't do that, right?
No, sure I can. I could draft Drake Maye today. I draft Bo Nix today. I start Bo Nix and I enjoy some success. And then I trade him after a couple years for Drake Maye and some change. Because
if you had to take one today for the future of your franchise, who are you taking?
So startup draft.
Yes.
Yeah, I take Bo Nix and then I trade him to the schlep who drafted Drake Maye.
Freaking guy.
And got
I don't know if people understand how frustrating it is sometimes to talk to you.
But if you're saying I'm not allowed to trade, which GMs are, that if I'm not allowed to trade, taking Drake Maye, dude. I always take the younger guy with better tools, regardless of whether, even if I have to wait like 3 years, I always take that guy.
Okay, then Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr.
No, it's Bo Nix, because Bo Nix is at least more reliable from a health standpoint at the very least. I think they both have good offensive situations overall. I think the system around them, the environment around them is both pretty good. And if they do their part, I think they're both going to be successful. I'm more comfortable with Bo Nix given his health. And Michael Penix Jr. is probably right around the same age, if I recall. They're both older guys coming into the league. Yeah. So health is the sure tiebreaker there for me.
Where do you think Bo Nix so you just said Michael Penix could be around that quarterback 15. I said quarterback 20. I think I have Bo Nix as like 12 to 15. Where do you have Bo Nix?
Probably right around there. Probably around 12-ish. 12, 13, maybe. Yeah, 12 or 13. He's probably around there. A couple slots above Penix.
Okay. All right. Last guy, JJ McCarthy. Didn't play last year. We don't have numbers from last year, but he did play this preseason game. He had a great preseason last year, but we're not going to talk about that. That was a really long time ago. We're going to talk about this preseason game where he went 4 for 7 with 30 yards throwing, no touchdowns, no interceptions, no big time throws, no turnover worthy plays, 6.8 ADOT, 3.11 time to throw, and a 60.5 passing grade. I think we learned absolutely nothing.
No, you learned absolutely nothing. You learned absolutely nothing. And you ready for this? Get ready, Chris.
I'm ready.
Vikings versus the Bears. Vikings versus Falcons. Okay. Vikings versus Bengals. Vikings versus Steelers. Vikings versus Browns. Those are the first 5 games of the season for JJ McCarthy.
So Bears, Falcons, Bengals, Steelers, Browns. I hear that. I say to myself, there's one really good defense in there.
Exactly. And are they even really good, or at this point, are they just good? Like,
no, the Steelers have a good defense.
Okay. All right.
Because they're going to bring a lot of pressure, and that's what's hard for rookie young quarterbacks, especially when it's interior pressure, which they can really draw up.
Okay. So let's say, all right, so 1. But that was my point, right? 1 out of 5. Mm-hmm. What are we going to learn? We're not going to learn anything the first few weeks of the season, because the Vikings, with that roster and O'Connell's scheme and everything that they have in place there, JJ McCarthy's not going to be, outside of the norms, the expected norms of an NFL game and the stressors that provides. They don't need JJ McCarthy to carry them against those defenses. Not at all. They might lose the game to the Bengals, but they're not going to lose the game to the Bengals because the Bengals defense just overwhelmed them at the line of scrimmage and they couldn't get open against that secondary. So from a standpoint of opposing defenses, yeah, there's one game before Halloween that's really going to stress out JJ McCarthy and the Vikings potentially. So we're not going to learn much here either. And if you recall, a year ago, we were saying that they had one of the toughest schedules through like week 10 of the NFL in 2024. We were looking at Sam Darnold and saying, oh man, but this is before McCarthy's knee injury. I don't know how long he's going to last before he gets beat up and JJ McCarthy's put in there. And then look at what happened with the Vikings there. So if the Vikings can do that against that type of schedule a year ago, they have no problem manufacturing offense against those defenses to get JJ McCarthy eased into things for his first month and a half of essentially his NFL career, even though he's a year 2 player. So we don't know anything about McCarthy. We're still not going to learn anything about McCarthy until really the second half of the year. Let's check back on Thanksgiving and see what we've learned, if anything there.
Yeah. If I had to predict, right, because that's what we're trying to do right now is predict. I don't think there's a world where McCarthy looks like terrible, right? Like, I don't think there's a world where we're going to sit here on Thanksgiving and go, wow, McCarthy's not the guy. Like, they need to get rid of him, which tells me he's a pretty good buy, right? Like, that's a pretty good guy to go after and go get. But if I were sitting here and saying, okay, he looked mediocre, like he can run a team, but not better than that, I wouldn't be surprised, right? If we're sitting here and going, he looked great, right? Like, this is the guy that is, getting the benefits of what is probably the best offense in the NFL for a rookie quarterback to go into. Technically not a rookie, but a young kid to go into who hasn't played. I think it's obvious that it is, right? So like, there's a chance he looks phenomenal. I wouldn't be surprised by that either. But I think there's a chance, right? And this is what I don't want is, what if McCarthy gets hurt again? And I think that like Sam Howell is a really good backup to go get right now.
Oh, you would say that.
Because
okay. That's fair.
If
I know where you're going
if
with this.
JJ goes down and it has to go to Sam Howell, like Sam Howell at least is like a competent backup in the NFL, right? Like he's like a very good backup in the NFL today, right? Like in terms of like, he could sling it. He could probably go win some games for you because he likes to throw the ball and take chances. All I think I'm saying is, if you don't have Sam Howell and you have JJ McCarthy, like, go get Sam Howell. Just make sure you have him. Just be safe. Wear protection.
Did you get Sam Howell in that special 16-team league?
I don't have McCarthy, so no. Maybe I did. Maybe I did get him.
Well, just in general, they're tough to come by in 16-team leagues. So nobody cares about your fantasy team. You got to look it up right now. But I get what you're saying there, in the sense that there's a very high floor given the system and the talent there for a quarterback to go into, and he's not going to get you, he's not going to get you slaughtered in the week if you have to start him in all 22. But Howell probably wouldn't be your quarterback 2 either in all 22. He'd probably be your quarterback 3 at that point. But in general, there's a floor there that someone like McCarthy can really benefit from. And we said it at the time, especially for a young quarterback like that, who really wasn't asked to put a lot on his shoulders in college either. That was a run first, play action, kind of on the move, drag crossers and overs type of offense there. He wasn't asked to put the offense on his shoulders and win games with his arm. He had a veteran line, a strong running game. That's exactly what he gets in the NFL. A lot of the same stuff. So it couldn't have gone any better for JJ McCarthy. And so, yeah, now it's just time to see how much of that he can take advantage of as a young player. And just to add another positive into the mix there on the right side of the ledger is the fact that the opposing defenses are not that difficult for the first part of that schedule for him. So he can really kind of, develop the way you would ideally want a young quarterback to develop in his first game action in the NFL.
Okay, so here's the $1 million question. Are you taking McCarthy over any of the other quarterbacks from last year?
Over any of the quarterbacks, I'm not taking JJ McCarthy over Jayden Daniels. So no. I am not taking him. No, the answer is still no.
Not over Penix, not over Nix.
I'd take him over Penix. Yeah, I'll take him over. I would take him over, again, the health thing. And I know McCarthy just missed a year. Like, I get it. But Michael Penix was in college for 6 years because he couldn't finish but like 2 of his seasons healthy. So there's a lot there. So I would take McCarthy over Penix, I think.
Yeah, I think that's probably the only one for me too. Yeah, I agree. And it's like I think the reason I feel this way too is because like the Vikings passed on Rodgers with like almost like a vengeance. Like he was basically like, I'll play for you for free. Like it almost seemed like he was going that route where he was like, I'll do whatever it takes to be your starting quarterback. And they were like, no, we're going with McCarthy. So they obviously believe in JJ McCarthy. And again, I think the offense is good enough to support that kind of confidence. Now we just need to see it. So I think I'm going to buy into McCarthy as well over a guy like Penix. Him and Nix are probably close right now. And I think him, Nix, and Maye are probably in the same ballpark at this point.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's a good situation for all of them. That entire sort of back half of the quarterback class a year ago, they fell in a good spot for them, and now it's just hopefully they stay healthy and continue to grow. But they all have a legitimate opportunity to advance and progress the way quarterbacks should, and we have not seen that enough with young quarterbacks coming into the league lately. So I'm glad that we finally can.
All right, people. If you haven't yet, go to all-22.com to sign up and play All 22. Start having your drafts. Go to the App Store, download the app today. But really, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't yet, give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and X at all22_PFF. And give us a review wherever you watch or listen to your podcast. And have a great rest of your day.
I'm a ghost.